Hello and welcome once again to the Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha, and Lakes Brock, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, even throughout the summer. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. You can also download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. You name it, it is out there. Again, throughout the summer, new content for you. And on today's show, we are talking about Carbon Tax 2.0. Yes, it is back, despite Mark Carney saying it's gone for good. Well, we told you so. To talk about this and much, much more, we bring back on the one and only Eric Duncan, the Member of Parliament for Stormont, Dundas, Glengarry. Sorry, I always say South Glengarry, so I had to get it straight.
Just changing the riding name just to keep you on your toes, Jamie.
I did. I even wrote it down because I always say South Glengarry.
Oh, good. You got it right.
All right. So Carbon Tax 2.0, it's coming back in the form of a clean fuel regulation. 17 cents was the carbon tax when Mark Carney scrapped it. 17 cents by 2030 is what it will be again. Amazing switch out.
That didn't take long. Way to break their promise that the carbon tax was going to be gone just before the election. And we warned the entire time, just if the Liberals got reelected, they're going to bring the carbon tax back. And this is what they do. The word salad games that they play, they go out now, it's a clean fuel standard is the word that they want to use. It is the buzzword for Carbon Tax 2.0. No rebates. It's going to be going up by 2030. And it's just going to be driving up the cost of living for everybody, the cost of food, the cost of doing business, the cost for families at a time when we don't need this. So we've been very vocal on this. In the first place, the carbon tax should be gone for good. You should not trust the Liberals. And I think there's a lot of Canadians that are having buyer's remorse now that here's Carbon Tax 2.0.
Well, the industrial carbon tax was never released, so there still was a carbon tax. They only took it off at the point of sale at the pump, which most people noticed the price drop. Inflation surprisingly dropped, even though we were told many times by the Liberals that carbon tax is not related to the inflation rate that was skyrocketing just a little while ago. But that's still, the industrial side's still there. Now we have the other side coming back, creeping up. And it's more being felt out east because they have some different standards. So in New Brunswick, according to the National Post, it's being felt right now about 9 cents a litre already.
Yeah, the impacts are there. It's only going to get worse every year, going up and up and up. They are tax obsessed with this. And they're trying to find different ways of doing it. So the industrial side, and then again, now this carbon tax 2.0 that they want to put in, they're just absolutely driven, ideologically driven all the time, and that any solution that they want to have is a tax increase. Just put it on to people. People can pay more. And at the end, to your point, in the East Coast, people can't afford, in my neck of the woods, you've got to drive to go to work, to go take the kids to hockey, to go out and get groceries. My family was in the trucking business. We did millions of miles all around Canada in the US, with diesel. But when you're driving up the price all the time, what's it doing? It's being passed on to the consumer. And again, we're seeing food inflation. Look how much food inflation's gone up this year.
Insane.
Every number we look at and metric we look at, this decision is just wrong. And again, they just seem stubbornly obsessed of getting past an election and then putting in the latest carbon tax idea that they've got.
And you said just a few moments ago, it's not gloating. It's kind of reminding those that switched to the Liberals because they thought Mark Carney was the man with the plan. We found out he is not the man with the plan after all, and he's just been capitulating to the United States one time after another. But what that point just highlights is the fact that we could tell this was coming because the Liberals are addicted to spending. They ran deficits during good economic times. After 2015, Harper got the economy rocking and rolling, but Trudeau still dipped into the piggy bank. We told them that was a bad idea. We said you should be saving, pay off debt, preparing for some possible rocky waters, of course, the pandemic and a few other things. But now Mark Carney we don't have a budget, but some early indications saying he could be a worse offender than Justin Trudeau.
Well, some of the numbers I'm hearing, 90 or $100 billion could be the deficit this year. That's nothing. Trudeau at one point, only several months ago before he left, and I think it was in the $40 to $50 billion range was what they were forecasting. And so Mark Carney is going to be doubling that. Could be, but who knows? You're right. They didn't table a spring budget. I think part of the reason is as they keep ramping up spending and they keep coming up, and a lot of wasteful spending out there as well, frustrating Canadians by the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. They're just getting increasingly frustrated, wondering what that number is going to be. Mark Carney said he's a so-called brilliant banker and economist. Well, if you were, a budget should have been tabled in the spring. We should know what the deficit, and the deficit should be going down. We've got to tighten the belt right now, and they're doing the absolute opposite. And traveling around the world, jet setting around the world, and meanwhile here we are trying to figure out the most basic things in a parliamentary democracy is where's the budget, what's the deficit, what are some of these key indicators? There's absolutely missing.
Well, that's right. So we knew it was happening or going to happen again because the Liberals need money, right? They can only borrow, tax, or print so much. But I think we've hit the maximum through the last few years, especially with Trudeau on the printing and the taxing and the borrowing. So I think we've hit that limit. So they need to keep looking for new sources. Again, the carbon tax was a good way for them to do that. And you're right, no rebates now.
17 cents a liter is going to be added on to the cost by 2030. Zero, it's all going to be pure revenue for them. And it's frustrating because he said you go back at the end of the day, that's coming from everyday Canadians and people that can afford it the least. And it's just a cycle. They're promising 1, 2, 3 different things. And then meanwhile, what are they doing? They're jacking up taxes for people in the cost of living. Let people keep their own money in their own pocket for their cost of living. That's been the Conservative mantra for years. And we've been warning about this, is that don't trust the Liberals when it comes to taxes every chance that they get. And there's just no coincidence now that this carbon tax 2.0 is being highlighted just after the election, and they're being stubborn with this. They want to get all the bad news out of the way right after the election, let people know, and just try to get used to it and think that they'll forget about it. But that's one thing, we are not going to let this go. We didn't let the original carbon tax plan go when we fought and fought and fought. If it wasn't for the Conservative pressure and letting Canadians know about this, that drove the popularity, there was never really popularity with it, drove the unpopularity of it and the awareness of it, drove the unpopularity of it all up, and rightfully so. We fought on that. And I think I'm anxious to get back in the House of Commons this fall with Pierre and our entire team, and we're going to keep hammering that and hold them accountable. They need to be, because it's two-faced the way that they've done this, and they misled Canadians before the election. And now they're going to have to answer some very, very tough questions. Same old Liberals, and that's you go back. Justin Trudeau had his problems, and Mark Carney is not new. He's just the 2.0 of what it is. Almost a hold my beer, here we go, on deficits, on taxes, on spending, on some of the scandals that they've been having in the opening days as well. There's a lot to be answered for.
And Carney was the economic advisor for Justin Trudeau for at least the last 5 years of Trudeau's reign. And those 5 years were probably the hardest felt by most Canadians. That's when they noticed inflation really skyrocketing, the printing of money, the borrowing, everything was out of control. And that was Mark Carney behind the scenes.
And this is one of the things too. Mark Carney's learned something very well from Justin Trudeau. It's the king of photo ops and announcements and all this flash that goes around with it. That's what it is. He wants the titles. He wants those roles, the part to look important. And now if you ask him about his time with Justin Trudeau, he pretends it never existed because he doesn't want to own that record. Yeah. And now that he is the prime minister and he's controlling the purse and, head of the cabinet, head of the government going on, we're just seeing the replication, what those whole 5 years, to your whole point, we're just seeing a continuation of all of that. So it is very clear, and it's no surprise that he advised them for the 5 years, gave very bad advice. And again, from a tax perspective, from a spending, a competitiveness perspective, we are really struggling. Developing our natural resources, same as it was with the Liberals, all talk and just no action at the end of the day. So, Carney's trying to run around for the old record, but he's actually replicating it here. And I'd say the longer this goes on, the more we see Justin Trudeau here, but just even more expensive and more costly.
Let's cue up cut one. We have the Environment Minister, Julie DeBrusen, talking about what you just mentioned just a second ago. Let's play cut one.
The industrial carbon price does an important part of reducing our emissions, as does making sure that we have clean electricity across our country. As we grow as a country, as we grow our industry and require more electricity as we move to electrification, we need to make sure that that's done in the right way. Just yesterday, I was even talking with people who were looking for the opportunities in Canada. And one of the things that they were saying is that they were attracted to our country because we have such a clean grid. I also really want to highlight the fact that it's an economic opportunity that is driving innovation here, but also driving people to look to our country as a place for investment.
I'm not really sure where the Liberals are looking for this energy, because they rarely, if ever, talk about nuclear, which is in terms of return on investment, probably the best bang for the buck we got.
Talking for years and years about it with no action behind it. And that statement just completely false. We're seeing investment in Canada being driven away. driven away to other countries because we're not competitive when it comes to access to energy, when it comes to competitiveness for taxes, for our job market, all of these things right now. There's a lot of difficult parts of attracting investment. So it's just this utopian, second world that the minister is living in to think that we're competitive in any way. That countries may be looking, but the reality is they're not coming here, and that's because you got things like an industrial carbon tax, and again, mandates, different things they're putting in, a lack of competitiveness when it comes to taxes, and actually trying to bring investment here that can create jobs and tax revenue. The numbers are showing that investment is fleeing this country. It's the absolute opposite of what they pretend and what they say at these press conferences they have.
And when you think about attracting manufacturing, for example, what is the thing they need the most? It's electricity, it's power. Exactly. And we need it at an affordable cost, or else it skews the numbers in terms of how much it actually costs to produce whatever there is they're doing, right? The market will only pay so much, so you have to find that sweet spot.
And the thing is, too, it goes back to the same philosophy and the ideology they have. Every solution to every problem they've got is to tax it.
Yeah.
And that's what they say, okay, well, we got to have clean energy, so we got to tax higher. Doesn't have to be the case at all. We could actually, what I think would resolve a lot and get more energy into our system, developing our natural is the government getting out of the way, lowering taxes, incentivizing that investment, that growth to get everything not spit and sputtering in our economy like we're seeing in this insecurity that many businesses have about even wanting to invest in Canada or expand in Canada. So again, the hypocrisy here is every single time we're facing a challenge, it's not the government getting out of the way, not the government creating a better environment. It's we'll come in and tax it and solve the problem that way. And we've seen from the last 9.5 years now of the Liberal record, that does not produce results. It produces the opposite. And again, the status quo is continuing with Mark Carney from the Trudeau government. It's much more the same, just different new ministers spewing the same talking points and ideology that is clearly not working.
Well, punishment for the average Canadian. But hey, let's cue up cut two. We have an oldie but a goodie, one from the past, but still very relevant to today's conversation. Yep. Mark Carney, play cut two.
But should we be flying less now?
We should be taking into account the impact of our flying on the planet now. And that's
pushing up the tax on flying.
You push up the tax on flying, you push up the cost on transport, and that's in part what putting a price on carbon is.
So making your life miserable, but the government class will continue doing what they do. And you said right off the top, Mark Carney is out flying around Europe. He doesn't seem to care about emissions or anything else he scolds Canadians about.
But again, the carbon tax 2.0 on driving around to go get your groceries, to go take your kids to hockey, just living your life as you're doing, not trying to do anything but live your life and try to do it affordably. They want to drive up the cost of transportation. That clip just tells you everything you need to know about what their actual true motive is. They want to drive up the cost, make life more expensive, make the cost of transportation more expensive, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's a debunked theory that it's effective in any way in terms of reducing emissions. They had a carbon tax for years. It didn't solve all the problems that they claimed it would. All it did was create a cost of living crisis that we're still going for. And before we get inflation back under control, before cost of living is back under control, here they are now talking about their latest carbon tax and plan to add 17 cents a litre to the cost of transportation. It's absolutely ridiculous. And again, just definition of insanity over and over and over again.
And here we go. And it's weird how the Liberals, I think you could bring this back, but the Liberals decide, I think this is how I've kind of framed how they work their government, because I can't seem to figure out another way. They determine the level in which they want to spend, do it anyway, not recognizing the level in which they bring in tax revenue or other sources, right? And they just say, well, we want to spend this much. We're going to anyway. Who cares what we're bringing in? We'll just tax, borrow, print, whatever, and hope it works out.
And how ineffective that is. The analogy or the comparison of that is like taking a credit card, because you got a credit line limit.
Yeah.
We'll go put whatever we want on the credit card, and we'll figure out, it doesn't matter what our income is or other sources. We'll figure out how to pay for it later. But if you're going and charging a lot more than what you have income coming in, that's not sustainable and going to last for long. You're going to have debt payments. What do we have here? We have a $1.3 trillion national debt and growing. And we spend just as much paying the interest and servicing our debt than we do on healthcare transfers now. And so as cost of living goes up and even interest rates, and you watch what those are, our borrowing rates gets a lot more expensive. It's just, again, costing more to operate government, adding more to the deficit, and that vicious a vicious circle, that snowball that just goes down the hill that way of where these same failed approaches just clearly are not working.
And especially when you start increasing the size of government, right? Government doesn't really produce anything. It slows down a lot, but it doesn't actually produce anything. And you start to grow that into the big behemoth, to what it is now. You can't accelerate that kind of action we need for an environment, because an entrepreneur has to go through so many hurdles to get his or her business off the ground or even started or scaling up. It's sad, but a lot of people, as you keep saying, investments fleeing, and a lot of people, unfortunately, with their brains, they're doing the same. And it hurts Canada.
100% it hurts. And you look at the size of the government, it's exploded in size.
Yeah.
And the irony of all this is about the effectiveness of it. Can you get an answer from CRA any faster than you could before? Absolutely not. The service standards have gotten worse. Just saw a story this week that on average, it's about 3.5 hour wait now on the phone to get a hold of somebody from CRA. And when someone calls in, only 4% of the time are they actually able to get a live agent on the phone and speak to them before they hang up in frustration or get disconnected. And here we are, exploding the size of the federal public service. The outside consultants and contractors doubling to over $20 billion a year, and ask, are you getting value for money? So here you are, if you're an entrepreneur or just a taxpayer looking at this, a value for money, it is not happening there. Things are getting worse. Immigration backlogs, Veterans Affairs backlogs, Phoenix pay system still backlogged, and some of those issues that are going on there. It's just adding and adding and adding, where the more they spend, the worse that it gets. But again, the sustainability of all this, again, racking up the credit card and not having the income to pay for it, it's going to be some even more difficult times for Canadians. We've got a lot of challenges to deal with right now, a lot of pressures domestically and around the world, and the actions that the Liberals are taking when it comes to the economy, the budget, the lack thereof, and the foresight to get things under control. Canadians are going to be left paying the bill for many, many years to come.
All right, we're pretty much out of time, but I have a lot more to go over with you. I'm going to put you on the spot. Feel free. Do you mind coming back next week and we can finish off this conversation? Because I have a whole card here I want to ask you about.
I love talking about this stuff and hold the Liberals to account, so count me in.
All right, the guests always get the last word. Do you want to close it out here?
I just say we're anxious for Parliament to come back. We're a couple of weeks away, and there's going to be a lot to go on. Pierre is going to be back in the House of Commons with our team, and we're going to be united and ready to go. So I'm fired up for the fall session. We got to hold the Liberals to account. There's lots to do, so ready to get back at it.
Awesome. Eric Duncan, thank you very much for your time, the Member of Parliament for Stormont, Dundas, Glengarry. I said it right. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for coming on next week. I'm threw you on the spot here. Thank you for yours. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. New content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next week, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blueprint.